Hello everyone, and welcome to another Let's Play. My name is Anna Mardal, and this is A Little Lily Princess by Hanako Games. So a couple of technical things first. I think I've fixed the equipment problem on my end that was causing that high-pitched whine that was in the background if you turned way up. That should be gone. I'm sorry about that. And then someone else asked if maybe we could do videos without the mouse cursor being visible. That is an option in Fraps, so I'm going to try it. The downside is that when I highlight things, you guys, it may look a little weird on your end that things are lighting up with no mouse prompt to show why. And also, it's going to make it a little bit harder for me to be like, and over here, and over there, but we'll see how it goes. So when we last played, this is our second playthrough of A Little Lily Princess. We just started getting immersed into the story of Sarah Crew and her life and adventures at the boarding school that her father has left her at while he goes back to India. We also started getting involved in the mechanics and kind of meeting all the characters. I know that I'm playing wrong in the sense that I'm meeting all the characters instead of concentrating on one character to get a good ending with them. So we're probably going to get a bad ending. I'm just going to warn everybody right there. Because right now I'm just sort of meeting everybody at the same time and not really deepening any friendships, and that's okay. That's what later playthroughs are for. So when we last left, we were in week 5. And I honestly don't remember what we were building towards stats-wise. You'll remember that these stats on the left, and wow, here's where I'm really missing my mouse cursor because you guys can't see my mouse cursor. The stats on the left go from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, and at 10 they max out. Then you're spending them constantly to get different weekly events. So this is a little different from Long Live the Queen, where you maxed out and you stayed there. These are actually being spent. The weekly self-improvement schedule is each day we gain more of these icons, and then at the end of the week they're converted into points. So I don't remember what we were building towards, but we're really low on patience and not so great on grace. So let's try to find some patience. Practice dance has patience. That's that little clock icon in the center, but only if we happen to land on that. Walk has patience. Diary has patience. So let's say write a diary, go for a walk, write a diary, go for a walk, and then dance. I put dance at the end because one of the options for dance is double all vigor down there, that third one, and so you'd want the double one to come later in the week so there's more to double theoretically. Does that give us any grace at all? Some of them had grace. Not really. And of course we may get totally screwed and end up with diary giving us faith and sympathy, which we have plenty of already. And that one is gain grace equal to vigor. So if you landed on that and you had no vigor, you'll get nothing. Ugh. Okay, let me rethink this. Better way to get patience? Honestly, dance seems like our best option. Let's just dance all week, see what happens. Worst case, we'll get lots of artistry and great. Well, worst case is we'll keep getting double all vigor when we have no vigor, but hopefully that won't happen. Go for it. Boom. So Monday we got art and grace. Tuesday we got art and grace. Wednesday we got art and grace. Okay, we're not going to get any patience. There's some patience, vigor and patience, not very much. And there's, okay, so we got 2 patience. That's about the best we're going to get. So we completely maxed out our artistry. We got 2 vigor, we got 2 patience, and we maxed out our grace. Again, I'm not playing this well, and I know I'm not. Because we're just learning everything now. Even from a distance, there was no mistaking Lottie's shrill little voice. I want to hold the kitty! Don't be ridiculous. Sarah came into the room to find Lavinia perched primly in a window seat, looking down at the smaller child, whose lip was beginning to wobble. Tybalt is in my lap, and he is perfectly content there. Listen, you can hear him purr. That is because I am stroking him, and he likes me. I want to hold the kitty. Keep your sticky little fingers away from his fur. Lottie's brow furrowed in fierce determination. Ignoring Lavinia's commands, she reached out to pick up the cat. Lavinia slapped Lottie's hand away. The sudden movement jostled Tybalt out of his comfortable doze. With a parting squeeze of his claws, he leapt from Lavinia's leg and hurried out of the room. Now look what you've done, you little brat. He's scratched me, and if he's damaged my dress, it scratched you because you're mean. You wouldn't even let me touch it. It isn't fair, it isn't. A cat is not a rag doll. You cannot snatch and tug at it as you please, or it will bite your hand. Is that too difficult for a child of 8 to understand? Okay, so I know Lavinia hasn't always been the nicest person to us, but she's actually not wrong. You shouldn't poke at cats. She cannot help being younger any more than we can help being older. If she is 8, she is 8, but she will be 9 next year, and 10 the year after that, and in 12 years she will be 20, and that is quite grand. Dear me, how we can calculate! I don't want to be 20. You will be when you are, and you won't be while you aren't, so there is no reason to want or not to want. No, no, no! Be quiet, or I shall slap your face. You mustn't. Lottie looked into Lavinia's blazing eyes, then ran from the room, wailing at the unfairness of it all. You ought not to baby her, Sarah. She must learn that she can't have everything her own way. Privately, Sarah thought that Lottie was not the only student at the school who might need to learn that lesson. Okay, so we have some events here. We've unlocked everybody except this girl here who I think is Becky. I believe you saw her on the opening splash screen. She was the girl with kind of the rag tied in her hair, and she had blue eyes, and I believe she becomes our friend later. So we've had an event with everyone except Mariette, and I've just been dying to speak to Mariette because I like Mariette, so we're going to take the Mariette event. Mariette, is it all right if I ask you a few questions about yourself? Bien sûr, mademoiselle. What do you wish to know? What is your family name? Miss Minchin did not say. Dumas, mademoiselle. Oh, are you a relative of the great French writer, the author of the Three Musketeers? I'm actually really excited. Let's see where this goes. Mariette chuckled kindly. No, mademoiselle. Well, not in a close way, I am not. There are many with the name of Dumas, and I cannot know what connections there are between all people. Do you know all your cousins, and your cousins' cousins, and all who bear the name of Crew? I don't know anyone else named Crew, except for myself and my papa. So you see, I cannot say who my relatives might be at some distance. Sarah nodded. Where in France do you come from? Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this one, guys. I grew up in Limoges? Limoges? I don't know. It's wrong. I'm going to say it wrong. I know I'm going to say it wrong. You may have heard of the Limoges box, the porcelain? Sarah shook her head. Ah, well, they were famous once. Perhaps they will be again. For now, like much of Limoges, they have faded. What is it like there? Ah, what is it like anywhere? It is a city. Not so large as Paris or London, no. Is it near Paris? No, pas très proche. Proche? It is in the south. You must rely on the railways to travel between them. All trains lead to Paris. Sarah tried to picture it. She did not know Limoges, but if it was in the south, then it must be warm and green, surely. She had seen paintings of France, stone houses, arches and bridges, rolling green hills, hanging vines, and sunlight, always sunlight, not the fogs of London. It must be lovely, as you say, mademoiselle. How did you come to take this position? What I mean to say is, my papa and I did not have time to visit France, and I did not meet you until you came here. Did you meet my papa somewhere else? No, we have never met in flesh and blood. Your papa, he is a gentleman, and knows many other gentlemen in fine cities like Paris. When it happened that he wished to appoint a maid, he wrote to this Paris gentleman to describe you. And I have a cousin who works for this Paris gentleman, and he thought of me, and so the arrangements were made, and I am glad they were. Sarah smiled. The gentle warmth of Mariette's regard was very comforting for a little girl, one who had been separated from her family and made to live in a far-off place. It was true that Mariette was, for the most part, only another stranger, like any other in Miss Minchin's seminary. They were only just beginning to know each other. And yet, Mariette was not simply a stranger who might come and go like the students. She was Sarah's maid, the beginnings of her very own household. She might, in time, be the closest thing to family. I wonder about the friend my papa has in Paris. I wonder if he ever knew my mother. So, okay, we kind of blew past it, but if you don't know Alexander Dumas, like, you should definitely go visit his Wikipedia page and read it, because he's actually a really fascinating person. And I don't want to go on too large of a tangent, but he actually has a really interesting biography, and I definitely recommend it. He was made the rounds around Tumblr a while back, and there was a whole lot of really good posts about him and lots of stuff that I didn't know, and I'm actually kind of tentative to say any of it here because I'll probably get something wrong, much like my accent and pronunciations. But definitely go read up on Alexander Dumas, because he was a really fascinating person. And also, that was really sweet. I really like Mariette. I really hope nothing bad happens to her. Would you like to sit in front of the mirror while I brush your hair, mademoiselle? Oh, I don't think so. Not by the mirror. You see, it is nice to sit and think while you run the brush through my hair. Sometimes I remember stories or think of things I want to say to someone else. Other times it helps me relax. It must be like that for Tybalt when someone is petting him. But if I were looking into the mirror, then the Sarah in the mirror would be looking back at me, and we would have to pay attention to each other, or else we might be thought impolite. Marietta laughed in the back of her throat. That is as you wish. I had thought of doing something different with your hair, and if you could see, then you would know more quickly if you thought yes or no, and I could change it if you did not like it. Well, I think it's better to look at it when it's finished. If you stop reading a book in the middle, you might have the wrong idea of what it's all about. Then I will show you when I am done. Mariette is so kind. I would be terribly lonely in these rooms without her. The school is full of other girls, but they are, like me, guests of Miss Minchin. We live in the same house, but they are not part of my household. Mariette is the only person who belongs to me. So, I hope that gets pushed back a little bit. And it may well, because Hanako has done a lot of games with paid servant master interactions, as with, like, the Royal Trap. But obviously, Sarah doesn't actually own Mariette. She's a paid servant. She's not a slave, and even if she was a slave, that would be wrong. And Sarah is very young and doesn't know that yet. But I kind of I hope that gets pushed back on just a little bit. We'll see where it goes. It is nice to sit and think while she brushes my hair, and she has a better way with it than my old Aya did, but I do miss Papa so. If he were here, if he were coming to visit me as some girls' parents do, how happy my life would be. I wonder where my Papa is now. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak. No, it is good, mademoiselle. You should speak your thoughts. Your father sailed many weeks ago. By now he is in India, yes? Home and safe, and thinking how different the house seems without your footsteps. Oh, I don't want to think of him as sad and lonely. It is right that he misses you, and that you miss him. That is how things should be. But that does not mean your life is nothing but sadness, does it? No, I do not think I am melancholy. I would not wish to be. I enjoy my books and my friends. So you see, your Papa will be lonely, but he will also feel other things. He will live his life, but he will also think of you. I believe you will hear from him soon. Oh, I hope you are right. No, you must be right. My Papa will write me letters as soon as the ships can carry them, and I will treasure his words. And I do hope, that my Papa has a friend to care for him, as Mariette cares for me. Okay, so that actually took nothing from us because Mariette was a free activity, or event, or whatever you want to call it. So we're still straddling, how do we get patience without... We're gonna get completely... We're just gonna get faith and sympathy, I know it, but I really want to gain those 2 patience. And the knowledge would be nice. Go for it. Ooh, we got 2 patience! And faith and sympathy we didn't need. Or belief and sympathy. Give me more patience. Give me more patience. There we go. Alright, that was the patience that we needed. We needed 4 patience, so now we have 9. So we were actually pretty good up. And if we were playing this properly, then we'd probably be spending way more because I assume that as we get to know people, their events become more expensive. That's my guess. While Sarah was walking through the school, she heard a great commotion coming from a nearby room. The first high-pitched shriek made her startle, concerned that one of the younger girls might have injured herself. Sarah was a quiet and solemn girl herself, but made no judgment against those whose temperaments led them to cry out loudly when they were in pain. However, the wailing went on and on, more angry than miserable, and the voice was recognizably Lottie's. Sarah came closer and began to make out the accompaniment of frustrated adults that had been drowned out by childish tantrum. "What are you crying for? There's nothing wrong with you." Oh, I haven't got any Mama." "Stop crying, for heaven's sake." "I haven't got any Mama." "You ought to be whipped. You shall be whipped if you do not hush, you naughty child." Lottie wailed more loudly than ever. Miss Minchin emerged from her room, her hands pressed to the sides of her head, and paused when she saw Sarah lingering outside. "Oh, dear Sarah." Miss Minchin's attempt at producing a friendly smile was not at all convincing. Lottie's roars continued unabated, and each burst of sound made Miss Minchin's shoulders twitch. "I stopped because I knew it was Lottie, and I thought, perhaps, just perhaps, I could make her be quiet. May I try, Miss Minchin?" "If you can quiet that, you are a clever child. Dreadful thing, we may not be able to keep her." But you are clever in everything, my dear. I dare say you can manage her. Go in." When Sarah entered the room, Lottie was lying on the floor, screaming and kicking her small fat legs violently. Sarah stood by the howling, furious child for a few moments and looked down at her without saying anything. Then she sat down flat on the floor beside her and waited. Except for Lottie's angry screams, the room was quite quiet. This was a new state of affairs for Lottie, who was accustomed to hearing other people protest and implore and command and coax her by turns. To find that the only person near her did not seem to mind in the least how she kicked and screamed was unusual, and made it necessary for her to pause her sobbing in order to see what was going on. She opened her tight-shut, streaming eyes to see who this person was, and found that it was only another little girl, but it was the one who owned Emily and all the nice things. Sarah looked at Lottie quite curiously, but said nothing. Lottie sucked in a gulp of air, but the noise she made sounded rather half-hearted. I haven't any mama." "Neither have I." Lottie blinked rapidly at this unexpected answer. Her legs and arms ceased their kicking and lay flat against the floor. Where is your mama?" "She went to heaven, but I am sure she comes out sometimes to see me, though I don't see her." "So does yours. Perhaps they can both see us now. Perhaps they are both in this room." "Here?" Lottie sat bolt upright and looked around. Seeing nothing, her face began to scrunch up again. "We can't see the people who live in heaven, even when they come to visit us. They travel like wind or sunlight. You can only feel them for a moment if they touch you, and then they're gone." "I'm sorry." "They can go anywhere in an instant, but most of the time they stay up above. Their land is full of lilies, fields and fields of lilies, and when the soft wind blows over them, it wafts the scent of them into the air. And everybody always breathes it, because that soft wind is always blowing. Wind and sunlight, and the streets are always shining. Little children run about in the lily fields and gather armfuls of them, and laugh and make little wreaths to wear on their heads, or spin cloaks and dresses of soft lily petals. The petals never go dry or brown, but when the children grow tired of them, they toss the petals into the air, and they turn into clouds." Lottie had by now quite forgotten to cry, and was leaning forward, hanging on every word that Sarah spoke. In that shining city, people are never tired, however far they walk. They can float anywhere they like. And there are walls made of pearl and gold all around the city, but they are low enough for the people to go and lean on them, and look down onto the earth and smile. From those walls, sometimes, they dance down to visit us. Other times, they whisper beautiful messages into the wind and hope that someday we will hear them. "Oh, I want to go there. I haven't any mama here." Sarah saw the danger signal and took hold of Lottie's hand with a coaxing little laugh. "I will be your mama in this school. We will play that you are my little girl, and Emily shall be your sister." "Shall she?" "Yes. Let us go and tell her, and then I will wash your face and brush your hair, and both of us shall have a little bit more family." Wow, okay, so that was sad. Sad in a happy way. So we've met everyone now. And the question is, well, except Becky. And the question is, who do we want to concentrate as we as we almost certainly careen towards a bad ending? I kind of want to talk to Jessie again, because she was our first event, and I honestly couldn't tell if she really liked us or if she was just sort of glomming onto us because she likes popular rich people or what. So let's go meet with Jessie. That afternoon, Jessie came to Sarah's rooms for tea. The tea itself, though, seemed to hold little interest for her. "I was hoping you could tell me more about your life in India. It all sounds very interesting and different to me." I am only learning the ways that it was different by being here. My papa and I lived in a bungalow that was twice as large as this school, but wide rather than tall. There was a veranda where we could sit in the breeze and watch the sunset. The summers are so hot that many children of British parents become ill, so we are taken away to the hill stations, which are towns in the mountains near lakes where it is cooler. I had many toys and pets and servants that would salam to me and call me Miss Sahib. I suppose it is because we are rich, but it is all the life that I knew. Did you ride elephants and camel leopards and tigers? Camel leopards? Is that a word? It's not what I've known before. I have never seen a camelopard. There are elephants in India, of course, but they are mostly used to carry heavy equipment or for rajas to ride in parade. I have seen them, but I have never ridden one. And tigers are too dangerous to see up close. Anyone who tried to ride one would be clawed and eaten. They attack villages sometimes and carry off the native children, you know. It's terrible. One even attacked the outpost my papa was stationed at, and he had to shoot it to defend the citizens. How exciting! He is very brave. I miss him so. I hope he does not do anything too brave while I am not there to look after him. Was it frightening, traveling so far? No, there were many other people on the ship with us. It was strange and not so comfortable as this room, but it did not feel dangerous. I'm sorry, I almost stopped up from crying early. It would have been much harder if my papa were not with me. When young boys are sent back to England, they are sometimes made to travel with the regiments and no family at all. A pleasant companion makes a great deal of difference. You should always have one. Jessie pressed her hands together in her lap, the motion giving a shy lift to her shoulders. I would very much like to travel the world when I am older, but I don't know if I will ever have the chance. Do you think you will travel, Sarah? Well, I do want to return to India as soon as I am old enough, and I think I should like to visit France someday. I haven't thought of it beyond that. It is a very big world. I suppose it would be a shame to live one's entire life in only a small part of it. Jessie gently swirled the liquid inside her teacup, her eyes locked on the little ripples and waves. Some people feel that London is the center of the world, and that once you're here, there is nowhere better in all the world for you to go. Why would you want more than perfection? I am sure London is very nice, but... The cup trembled in Jessie's hands. Oh, I'm sorry. I've spilled a bit of tea. How silly of me. Please tell me more stories about India. All right. So, oh, that's so sweet. Jessie is maybe kind of angling to be our traveling companion, which I'm totally on board with. Girls, gather round if you please. We will be welcoming a special dance instructor today who is visiting from France. She will be leading you in exercises to increase your grace and posture. Go and change into your leotard-style dancing costumes. She swept off to her office, and the girls clustered eagerly together. A special dance instructor! Do you suppose she might be from the Ballet de l'Opéra de Paris? The Ballet of Opry? The Paris Opera Ballet, of course. The absolute birthplace of romantic ballet, and they go all the way back to the court of the Sun King. Oh, I am not so fond of ballet as you are. No one is as fond of ballet as Jessie is. It is a sickness with her. Oh, look, Jessie's blushing. I wonder if there really is a sickness that could make you like one thing or one person more than another. And if there were, would anyone wish to be cured? Such things you imagine. In any event, it might not be ballet. She is a special instructor after all. Perhaps we will be permitted to practice social dances, perhaps even the waltz. My father says the waltz is shocking. I wish I could remember what time period we're in. I'm sure it's in the wiki. Watching you attempt to perform it no doubt would be. If we are allowed to waltz, I will be dancing with Jessie. Oh, and Jessie's blushing again. Perhaps we had better go and get our costumes. Ermengarde is very sensible. It took only as little praise as that to make poor Miss St. John look pleased. The dancing lessons did not progress quite as anyone expected. Oh, look at the cute little... What is going on here? So, Sarah's trying to touch her toes. Ermengarde's helping. Lottie is just doing her thing. And I'm not sure what Lavinia and Jessie are doing. I do not see how this can be described as dancing. It is preparation for dancing. We are learning to stretch and relax our bodies so that we may move more beautifully. It's French. Sarah, is this the way things are usually done in France? I have never asked Mariette whether she took dancing lessons. I want to walk on my hands. Leave your hands on the floor long enough, and Ermengarde will trot on them for you. Ah, Jessie, be careful. You are tickling me. The instructor said it was imperative that we rub deeply to warm our muscles. To speak of muscle upon a lady is very unseemly. Your hands are very strong, Ermengarde. Oh, did I hurt you? No, not a bit. It feels nice. It is a little like having my hair brushed. It makes me feel like a cat being petted. I want to be a cat. I want to dance like a cat. Cats don't dance. Ah, Jessie, am I going to have to pull out my copy of Cats Don't Dance? They dance at the court of the King of Cats. I just... I love Sarah. How do they dance, Sarah? Do they stand on their hind legs? Well, girls, cease chattering and get ready for your lessons. Yes, Miss Minchin. Oh, we didn't get to hear about the dancing cats. Okay, so we're really low on knowledge. That would be 6, that would be 9, assuming we got the top ones. We could still use some more patience. Let's go that way. 1 knowledge. 3 knowledge. Patience. Okay. Alright. So good. I don't actually think we maxed out anything, but we're pretty firmly up on stuff. Are you well, ma petite? Yes, I am only feeling a little tired. The days have been growing warmer, but the air never feels the same way it did in India. I suppose Ermengarde is right, and it is the smell of London. Even if I cannot distinguish one scent above the others that would mean London, it must always be there, as I am. Bon courage, mademoiselle. I have something here which will brighten your day. A letter from Papa! Oh, merci, Mariette. Merci beaucoup. She did not open it at once, but pressed the envelope to her chest. My Papa has sent this. It has been in his hands. If a letter can come from his hands into mine, then we are never so far apart. At last she took out the paper and began to read. My dear little missus, here I am once again in Bombay. I have little to tell you of my adventures, for no sooner did I reach home than I began thinking of you and putting pen to paper. Therefore, I have seen little since I left you other than ships, and you remember those. Sarah closed her eyes, and let herself remember the voyage from India, the big ship, the Lascars? I don't know what that is. I wonder if I can Google that. A Lascar was a sailor or militiaman from South Asia, the Arab world, and other territories situated to the east of the Cape of Good Hope, who were employed on European ships from the 16th century until the middle of the 20th century. So, hey, I learned something today. Sarah closed her eyes and let herself remember the voyage from India, the big ship, the Lascars passing silently to and fro on it, the children playing about on the hot deck. There had been women on board, the wives of some young officers who had invited Sarah to take tea with them and delighted in making her speak her unusual thoughts. But most importantly, there had been her papa. I felt it important to write you at once so that you would not worry about your poor old papa all alone on the ocean. All is well. I am returned, and life here is remarkably unchanged in my absence. Now it is your duty to let me know all that has happened since I left you, all the new friends you have made, the books you have read, and the sights you have seen in London. Do you remember Colonel Grange and his little daughter Isabel? In a year she will be old enough that she must leave for England as well. I am relying on your advice to tell her what to expect in her schooling. Give my regards to Emily and any companion she may have acquired. Yours always, your loving Papa. Sarah held the letter in her hands, already beginning to imagine the many things she might write in response. I love you too, Papa. Okay, I'm tearing up again. I am sorry, you guys. I am a very emotional person. Who should we go talk to? Oof. Let's go talk to Lavinia again. In her room, Lavinia was displaying her favorite framed print for Sarah's perusal. Even though it is only a print and not an original painting, I keep her on my wall to serve as my inspiration. She is the quintessential English Rose, you see, not the daring and fashionable Gibson girl, but a more traditional beauty, delicate and fair. So does it seem like Lavinia's overcompensating for something? She really didn't want to talk about India, and she's trying so hard to be perfectly English. You gotta wonder if she's like, maybe she's of a commoner lineage than Sarah? I don't know. We'll see. I feel sorry for her, even if she does threaten to slap Lottie in the face. You see how white her skin is, with only the faintest touch of rose at her cheeks and lips, and her hair, that light ash brown, so unassuming and untouched by artifice. Do you see how she reclines, how she sighs, modest and tender as a petal? That is true beauty. You will never measure up to that standard, of course. I know. Neither will you. I am not fair-haired, or soft, or rosy-cheeked, but your hair is as straight and black as mine, and your skin is darker. However, you could certainly make some improvements. Your clothing is so queer and old-fashioned. What makes the difference between old-fashioned and traditional? One is better than the other. That's not an answer. Where did you get such a wardrobe? What was your mother thinking? My mother is dead. Oh, that expression. Very little ever seemed to make Lavinia uncomfortable. This subject, however, shook her composure. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be. I didn't know. It's all right. I never knew her, so it doesn't make me sad. She died when I was born. Well, anyway, it's just not done to talk about the departed, and especially not to criticize them. That is a piece of English manners which you should learn. So I ask that you forgive me for what I said. Of course I forgive you. I wonder if her mother is dead too. But if she says it's rude to talk about it, she would probably be upset if I asked. In any case, I suppose that explains your clothes. Your poor father was left to outfit you all on his own. Men have no head for fashion. Perhaps you will develop your own style when you are older. What do you think, Miss Crew? Will you become a new woman? I do not know what a new woman is. Is there an old woman? What is the difference? I suppose every woman will become an old woman eventually, but every girl must become a new woman at some point first. How you do tie yourself into knots. If you aren't careful, you will become known as a blue stocking. Sarah looked down at her stockings, which were quite clearly white with blue embroidery. Lavinia sighed noisily. An overly intellectual woman. She turned back to regard her inspirational print. The ideal English lady is accomplished and well-read, but only enough to make polite conversation, not enough to be challenging. I think Lavinia will always be a challenge. Manners, accomplishments, and of course a good fortune can go a long way to make up for a less than ideal appearance. Still, there will always be a benefit in looking one's best. That Lottie, with her little golden curls, is likely to become something of a beauty when she is older, if she ever ceases to be an irritatingly spoiled brat. I suppose none of us see ourselves as we see others. I am sure I have quite obvious flaws that I completely overlook. Is it all right, then, to call her Lottie and not Miss Lee? Oh, yes, she's a child. And really, it is tiresome being so formal all the time. We are all practically family here, aren't we? We live under the same roof. We share with each other, like sisters. Therefore, you may call me Lavinia. Oh, thank you, Lavinia. Oh, and you may call me Sarah. Lavinia nodded earnestly. Yes, that's just so. Failing to reciprocate would be impolite. If you wish to show more enthusiasm, you can be more insistent. You must call me Sarah. However, too much enthusiasm seems clumsy, fawning. It cloys. I will remember that. She does put a good deal of thought into how a lady should behave. But if she must play a part, why not choose a more enjoyable one to play? Oh. Okay, I really like Lavinia. I didn't think I would. I wasn't sure. But it does seem like she's got some skeletons in her closet that she's worried about. Hist! I think I hear Sarah coming. Quickly, step aside. Don't let her see us. But why? Shush! Lavinia took hold of her friend's shoulders and pushed her back against the wall. And Jessie's blushing again. Okay, if Jessie is not canonically a lesbian, I'm going to be upset. Wait a moment. There, she's gone. Why are we avoiding Sarah? Ever since she got that letter, it's been nothing but India this and India that. If I have to hear her say that word again, I'm afraid the hair will fly right off my head. I like her stories. Do you know her father has faced down a tiger? He shot the one whose skin Sarah has in her room. That's why she likes it so. She lies on it and strokes its head and talks to it as if it were a cat. That is simply disgusting. If it were a cat, it would be one that he had killed. What's next? Will she drown Tybalt and then have him stuffed for a pillow? I don't think it's the same thing at all. Sarah said the tiger was attacking an outpost and that he had to shoot it. Sarah tells stories. You know that. Well, I think her father sounds very interesting, and so does India. It's a filthy, disgusting place, rank with foul humors, and don't you forget it. Come along now. Oh, Lavinia, why must you be so racist? It makes me sad. All right. Lavinia led, and Jessie followed. I haven't been talking to it much because there's so much that I can't adequately talk to. But the relationship between Britain and India is complicated and fraught and full of exploitation. And I really wish I had a good book on this subject to recommend. I remember one that someone recommended to me a while back, but I don't remember the name, and I should look it up. But and of course all this is boiled into the original source material. Hanako didn't add it. And I haven't, like I said, been talking on it much because there's a lot that I don't know, and I'm not sure that it's in my lane to talk about, but it's something to be aware of. And I didn't want to just not talk about it, so. Okay, we're on week 8, and I should probably save the game because I haven't saved the game in a while. And we're almost at the hour mark, and I try to keep these to about an hour, but let's keep going for one more. I'm going to read a book so we can get some knowledge and try to get some more patience. Here we go. 3 knowledge, that's good. More knowledge. More knowledge. That should max out our knowledge. We didn't need that. Patience, 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 patience. Sure. Got no patience. Okay. Ermengarde, what do you have there? A new book? The plump girl sighed, showing none of the delight Sarah would have found in such a possession. My father sent it to me to be enriching. I don't see how books have made me any richer so far. May I see it? She took the volume from Ermengarde's hands and examined the gold lettering on the cover. Poems Antiques by Le Comte de Lys, a book of French poetry. Sarah's excitement only deepened the other girl's dismay. Would you like me to read it with you? I'm certain that if... What's this? Oh, Sarah, you have a new book? French poetry, very improving. As long as it isn't one of those shocking new decadent poets. A proper lady should not read such works. I'm sure it's nothing of the sort. What would you know about it? I was speaking to Sarah. Actually, the book belongs to Ermengarde. What? Don't be silly. She can't even read it. Ermengarde grabbed the book. It's mine. She turned and walked away. You ought not to tease her so. I didn't say anything that isn't true. What good is a book of French poetry to someone like her? Such a waste. She'll probably never even open it. She should have simply given it to you. Admit it. You know that I'm right. You may be right, but it was a gift from her father. I'm sure she will treasure it. Not every girl is as devoted to her father as you seem to be, Sarah Crew. Okay, well, we have to go check on Ermengarde. There's just no... Ermengarde sat contentedly on the floor of Sarah's room, listening to her read from one of her storybooks. And then he offered to take her away to his father's court, where he would make her his bride. The maiden adored the prince, whose company had charmed her for so many hours, but she could not bear to leave her sisters without first telling them farewell. She bade the prince to leave and return again the next day to the place in the woods where they had met. Sarah did not read the words exactly as they were written, but put her own little touches upon the story to make it turn out the way that she preferred. Oh, I love that. I do that. I have some rewritten fairy tales on my own blog. It was not quite the same as telling her own stories, but Ermengarde still seemed nervous at the idea of stories that had not come from a book at all. It was the first step. Once he had gone, she rushed back to her home to take up her work at the wheel, planning to spin twice as fast to cover for her absence. But when she sat down at the wheel, she was dismayed to find that her magic gold thread had lost all its brightness. Her heart beat fast, and she wept bitterly, for she remembered her mother's warning and knew not what misfortune might now befall her. She was so afraid that she would be punished for what she had done, that she ran away without telling anyone what had happened, not even her beloved sisters. She ran through the woods, looking for her prince, but he was on horseback and long since gone. And while she ran, she did not watch where she was going, and so she tripped over a root and fell into a rushing river, disappearing into the swift current. Thus the misfortune was complete. She drowned? Not quite. Sarah continued her story, how the maiden was transformed into a golden water lily who sang her sorrow, and how she was at last restored to life by the love of her sisters. Ermengarde sighed in contentment. When I hear stories in your voice, I can almost see them happen. You are much better than books. But what about the prince? Doesn't he marry her in the end? He rode over the bridge by the river and heard her singing, but he didn't do anything to save her. It was her sisters who loved her enough to look for her when she was lost. I thought princes were always heroes. Anyone could be a hero in the right circumstance. I don't think I could. Ermengarde looked around Sarah's room, decorated as it was with the best of at least 3 countries, dependable England, refined France, and exotic India. Do you miss being in India, Sarah? Yes, of course. It was my home, and I was happy there. I had my house, and my pets, and my Aya. And the skies were never foggy and gray like they are here in London. I loved living there. But I love it most of all because it is where my papa will be. Ermengarde saw Sarah's face suddenly change. A cloud seemed to pass over it and put out the light in her shining eyes. She drew her breath in so sharply that it made a funny, sad little sound, and then she shut her lips and held them tightly closed, as if she was determined either to do or not do something. Have you a pain? There was a moment of silence, in which Ermengarde worried that she might have spoken out of turn, but at last Sarah answered, Yes, but it is not in my body. Her voice was slow and somewhat unsteady. Do you love your father more than anything else in all the whole world? Ermengarde's mouth fell open a little. She knew it would not be correct for a respectable child at a select seminary to say that she did not adore her father, could not imagine even so much as fond of him. I scarcely ever see him. In fact, she did her very best to avoid being left alone in his company for more than a few minutes. Oh. It was not a proper feeling for a daughter, perhaps, and it was clearly not anything that Sarah would understand. Ermengarde was indeed greatly embarrassed. He is always in the library, reading things. There was a wealth of information in that statement, if Sarah had been inclined to decipher it, but she was too preoccupied with her own feelings. I love mine more than all the world 10 times over. That is what my pain is. He has gone away. She put her head quietly down on her little huddled-up knees and sat very still for a few minutes. Ermengarde had an idea that if she had been like any other little girl, Sarah might have suddenly burst out sobbing and crying. But she did not. Her short black locks tumbled about her ears, and she sat still. Then she spoke without lifting her head. I promised him I would bear it, and I will. You have to bear things. Papa is a soldier, and I think what soldiers bear. If there was a war, he would have to bear marching and thirstiness, and perhaps deep wounds, and he would never say a word, not one word. Ermengarde could only gaze at Sarah, but she felt that she was beginning to adore her. She was so wonderful and different from anyone else. Presently, Sarah lifted her face and shook her black locks with a queer little smile. If I go on talking and talking, I shall bear it better. You don't forget, but you bear it better. I will talk to you as much as you like, if it helps you. Oh! So very sweet. Mariette, are you... Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. It's quite all right. Are you reading? Wait, that book, I've seen it before. It was the same familiar copy of Poem Antique. Your friend, Ermengarde St. John, made a gift of it to me. She thought I might appreciate a volume de Poésie Française to feel more at home. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think of it. Would you like me to buy you more books in French? I don't mind. No, mademoiselle. I am content. But it was a kindly thought of Ermengarde's, for such a young girl to notice and think of a maid, one who was not in her employ. Many would not. Ermengarde is very nice. I did not even consider Mariette. I wanted that book for myself, but Ermengarde has seen the person who would benefit from it most. Oh. So, I'm going to save here and pause. We're on week 9. I'm betting that 9 or 10 is when the bad thing will happen. And I don't want it to, but I also don't want to leave on a cliffhanger, so we will leave everything is still sweet and nice, and I will see you in the next video. Once again, this has been, can I go back to the main? I like to, no, I don't think I can. I was gonna go back to the main screen and show you the splash screen, but I can't. Once again, this has been A Little Lily Princess by Hanako Games. My name is Anna Mardal. I know we have some new subscribers here, which, by the way, hi and thank you. I always love seeing the subscriber number go up. I have a whole bunch of videos, obviously. I have a blog, which I link to in the descriptions, where there's a lot of writing. I specifically write about Narnia and Xanth and Twilight and stuff a lot, but I also have some of my own writings up there, like fairy tales, and I also have a book. So if you just can't get enough of me, there's there's plenty of me to be gotten of. And I do, again, appreciate everyone being super patient as I struggle with pronunciation and my own special blend of a Texas accent. I will see you in the next Let's Play, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!